Hello everyone and welcome back to our channel. My name's Amy and today I'm going to give you 10 of my favorite books. I've done a video like this once before, which I will link right up here in the cards. It was a list of my top 10 very favorite books of all time. This is just going to be a list of 10 more books that I love. I have hundreds of books that I've read and that I've loved, and obviously I'm not going to name all of those books. I think there's like, I don't know, like around 700 books at this point. By the way, I'm not doing these books in any particular order as far as the order that I enjoy them or anything. These are just 10 of my favorites. So I'm just gonna go ahead and start with this one. This is Kindred and Death by J.D. Robb. J.D. Robb is a pseudonym for Nora Roberts, and technically what I'm saying here is the entire series. The funny thing is about these is that the main character, Eve Dallas, I don't like her. I don't like her at all, but I love the book, so I keep reading the books. I like a lot of the other characters. Basically, this series is about a cop named Eve Dallas. She's a lieutenant for the New York City Police Department, and it takes place in the future. There's a killer somewhere, and you don't really know who it is until the end of the book. It's just interesting because it has some futuristic stuff in it. Obviously, it takes place in 2060. Cars can go vertical, and which means that they can fly basically, which is kind of silly. The rest of it's pretty believable as far as, yeah, I can kind of see some of those things happening in 2060. Not the flying cars, but the other things. Next is a book by Stephen King, and he wrote this as Richard Bachman, which was a pseudonym that he used for a while. It's called The Long Walk. It's basically about a group of boys in the future in something called The Long Walk, and it seems like it's a marathon of some sort, except instead of running, they're just walking, and you as the reader don't really understand what this walk really is and what it means and how the winner is determined, and you slowly find that out as the walk begins. I really don't want to say too much about it because it's one of those books where you think it's about one thing and it turns out to be about something else, which if you saw my other video, you know that's the kind of book that I really love. So highly recommend The Long Walk by Stephen King. Number 3 is a collection of short stories by Joyce Carol Oates, and this book is called The Female of the Species. She has a way of writing that can physically make you feel nervous. There is one short story in particular, it's called The Banshee, that I really felt nervous while I was reading it. If you've never read her, I would suggest starting out with her short stories. The next book, I have an original hardcover because Brad surprised me one Christmas with this, so there's really nothing to show you on the cover, but it is Bid Time Return by Richard Matheson, and this is the basis of the movie Somewhere in Time. If you've been following me, you know how much I love that movie. So this is the original novel, copyright 1975. There are some subtle changes from the book to the movie. I have to admit that I love the movie more. I don't know if it's because I saw the movie first and because the movie takes place on Mackinac Island, which the book does not. But if you can get your hands on this book, I highly recommend it. These days, whenever I see it anywhere, it's paperback, and it does say Somewhere in Time on the front. It doesn't say Bid Time Return, but this is the original. It's just one of the things I treasure in life. Next is also by Richard Matheson. It is a collection of short stories, and it's called Nightmare at 20,000 Feet. You've probably heard of that particular short story because it was used in The Twilight Zone. William Shatner played the main character in that, and then in the movie The Twilight Zone, John Lithgow played the main character, and that's the one that I think most people know. It's the story of the guy who's on the plane, and where his seat is on the plane is near the wing, and he looks out and he sees some kind of creature, and everyone thinks he's crazy. But that's not even my favorite story in this collection. There's one called Disappearing Act, Long Distance Call, Madhouse. They're just all very enjoyable. Again, I really love short stories, which is pretty evident. Next on my list is by David Sedaris. This is called Me Talk Pretty One Day. and it's another collection of stories from his life, things that have happened to him. And a lot of the stories in this particular book are about when he moved to France, and it's just about how he had to learn how to speak some French and he wasn't very good at it. It's hilarious. It is so funny. I love it. I highly recommend this book. So switching gears now from funny to pretty terrifying it's actually a series of 3 books, but this is the first one. It's called Unwind, and my son Noah is the one that introduced this one to me. It's really hard to explain what this one's about. By your 18th birthday, if you end up not being everything that your parents wanted you to be, if you're a disappointment in some way, your parents can choose to have you unwound. I suppose you could relate it a bit to abortion, but instead of being aborted before you're born, you're aborted when you're 18. It's very disturbing. It sounds ridiculous and it sounds just weird, but it was a very compelling book, very well written. I recommend this book if you just really want something different. So the next book is by Anna Maxted. It's called Behaving Like Adults. She is a British writer, and this is just funny and witty and clever and cute. I don't know what else to say about that one, just I enjoyed it a lot. Okay, number 9. This is another serious book. This is called Finding Me by Michelle Knight. I'm sure you've heard of the story about Ariel Castro and the horrible tragedy that happened here in Cleveland, where he held 3 girls captive in his home for 10 years until they made their escape. And 2 of the girls wrote a book together, and I have that book as well. But this one is just by Michelle Knight, and I enjoyed this one even more. I recommend this book if you have any interest at all in what happened and want a first-hand account. And it's just so sad. And I just wanted to give her a hug when I was done reading it. So number 10, I'm gonna end on a funny note here because this is one of the funniest books I've ever read. It's by Jim Gaffigan. It's called Dad is Fat. This kind of reads like a collection of short stories because they're about his life and having kids. And he and his wife have 5 children, and they live in a tiny little New York apartment. This is one of those laugh out loud funny books. So if you like books like that. So that's it for 10 more of my favorite books. Thank you so much for watching. I hope that you enjoyed this and that gave you some ideas on books to read if you're looking for something new. I would love to do another video like this if you're interested. Like I said, I've got lots of books that I love that I could talk about. If you're not subscribed, please consider hitting that subscribe button and give this video a like if you enjoyed it. That'll let me know if you've enjoyed this video, and if you'd like me to make more like this, I would love to do that. But thanks again for watching, guys, and I hope that you have a great day. Bye!